To dim screw in fluorescent bulbs, it is essential to use a dimmer specifically designed for fluorescent lighting. Regular dimmers intended for incandescent lamps will not function properly with fluorescent bulbs. These fluorescent screw-in bulbs contain a small ballast integrated into their base. This ballast is responsible for the ignition and regulation of the lamp's operation. When dealing with a scenario where there is a double switch, also known as a two-gang switch that fits with the duplex receptacle plate, and you want to install a dimmer in one of the locations within a three-way circuit, there are some considerations. Firstly, there are no dimmer switch combos readily available in the market that are designed to fit into a duplex receptacle plate. However, you can achieve the desired functionality by using a separate dimmer and a separate switch. Here is how to wire a dimmer into a three-way switch circuit. Remember safety first. Turn off the power to the circuit at the breaker before beginning any electrical work. First, identify the traveler wires. Begin by turning off the power and removing the existing switch. Identify the two wires that are connected to the same terminal on both three-way switches. These are the traveler wires. Secondly, break the circuit. Use wire nuts to connect the traveler wires from the dimmer and switch together, effectively breaking the circuit. Thirdly, connect the dimmer. Connect the black wire from the dimmer to the black wire from the power source. Then connect the white wire from the dimmer to the white neutral wire. Finally, connect the red wire from the dimmer to the remaining traveler wire that was previously connected to the switch. Fourthly, connect the switch. Connect the black wire from the power source to one terminal on the switch. Connect the white wire from the power source to the other terminal on the switch. And then connect the red wire from the dimmer to the remaining terminal on the switch. And lastly, install the dimmer and switch. Install the dimmer in the first switch box and the switch in the second switch box. Be sure to terminate all wires securely with wire nuts to ensure safe and reliable connections. By following these steps, you will have a functional three-way dimmer switch circuit utilizing a separate dimmer and switch for control. It's important to choose a dimmer that is compatible with the type of fluorescent bulb you are using to avoid flickering or premature bulb failure. Dimmers designed for LED lamps may sometimes work with dimmable fluorescent bulbs, but it is best to consult the manufacturer's specifications for compatibility. Ensure all wiring connections are made in accordance with local electrical codes and regulations. If you're not comfortable working with electricity, it's always best to hire a qualified electrician. In a standard three-way switch circuit, there are two switches that control a light fixture from two different locations. Each switch has a common terminal and two traveler terminals. The traveler wires connect the two switches, allowing the circuit to be switched from either location. When adding a dimmer to a three-way circuit, you are essentially inserting the dimmer in series with one of the traveler wires. This allows you to control the brightness of the light fixture from one of the switch locations. When making the wire connections, always use appropriately sized wire nuts for the gauge of the wires being connected. Loose or improperly sized wire nuts can cause the connections to overheat and potentially create a fire hazard. It is a good idea to test the circuit after completing the wiring to ensure that it is functioning correctly. Use a voltage tester to verify that the power is off before touching any of the wires. Once the wiring is complete, turn the power back on and test the dimmer and switch to make sure they are working as expected. If the light fixture does not dim properly or the switch does not function correctly, turn off the power and double-check all of the wiring connections. If you are still having trouble, consult a qualified electrician. When choosing a dimmer for a fluorescent bulb, it's important to consider the wattage rating of the bulb. Make sure that the dimmer is rated for at least the wattage of the bulb to avoid overheating or premature dimmer failure. Some dimmers are also designed to work with specific types of fluorescent bulbs, such as compact fluorescent lamps or linear fluorescent lamps. Consult the manufacturer's specifications to ensure that the dimmer is compatible with the type of bulb you are using. It is important to follow all safety precautions when working with electricity. Always turn off the power to the circuit before making any wiring connections. Use insulated tools and wear appropriate safety gear, such as gloves and eye protection. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is always best to hire a qualified electrician. They will have the knowledge and experience to safely and effectively install a dimmer in your three-way switch circuit. Also, check for any local codes and regulations that may apply to electrical work in your area. Some jurisdictions may require a permit for electrical work, and it is important to comply with all applicable codes and regulations. By following these guidelines, you can safely and effectively install a dimmer in your three-way switch circuit and enjoy the benefits of dimmable fluorescent lighting. When connecting the wires, make sure to strip the insulation back far enough to ensure a good connection, but not so far that bare wire is exposed. Exposed bare wire can create a safety hazard and potentially cause a short circuit. Use a wire stripper to remove the insulation from the wires, and make sure to use the correct size stripping hole for the gauge of the wire. When connecting the wires with wire nuts, twist the wires together tightly before screwing on the wire nut. This will ensure a good mechanical connection and help to prevent the wires from coming loose. After screwing on the wire nut, give the wires a gentle tug to make sure that they are securely connected. If the wires come loose, remove the wire nut and retwist the wires together more tightly. In addition to wire nuts, there are other types of connectors that can be used to connect wires, such as push-in connectors and crimp connectors. Push-in connectors are easy to use and can be a good option for connecting smaller gauge wires. Crimp connectors require a special crimping tool, but they can provide a more secure connection for larger gauge wires. When choosing a connector, make sure to select one that is appropriate for the gauge of the wires being connected and that is rated for the voltage and amperage of the circuit. When installing the dimmer and switch in the switch boxes, make sure to properly ground the devices. Grounding provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source, which helps to protect against electrical shock. The grounding wire is typically green or bare copper, and it should be connected to the grounding screw on the dimmer and switch. The switch box itself should also be grounded, either by connecting it to a metal conduit or by running a separate grounding wire from the switch box to the grounding system. When tightening the screws on the dimmer and switch, be careful not to over-tighten them. Over-tightening the screws can damage the devices or strip the threads. Use a screwdriver that is the correct size for the screws and tighten them until they are snug but not overly tight. After completing the wiring, it is a good idea to label the wires with wire markers. Wire markers can help you to identify the wires in the future if you need to troubleshoot the circuit. You can use pre-printed wire markers, or you can make your own wire markers with a label maker. Be sure to label the wires clearly and accurately. When testing the circuit, start by checking the voltage at the dimmer and switch. Use a voltage tester to verify that the voltage is correct. If the voltage is not correct, turn off the power and double-check the wiring connections. If the voltage is correct, then test the dimmer and switch to make sure they are working as expected. Turn the dimmer up and down to see if the light fixture dims properly. Flip the switch to see if the light fixture turns on and off correctly. If the dimmer or switch is not working correctly, turn off the power and double-check the wiring connections. If you are still having trouble, consult a qualified electrician. Here's a slightly different approach to the wiring connections, focusing on the sequence and purpose of each step. Remember to always prioritize safety by turning off the power at the circuit breaker before commencing any electrical work. Double-check with a non-contact voltage tester to ensure the circuit is energized. Begin by identifying the traveler wires. At each of the three-way switches, there will be two terminals that are not the common terminal. These terminals are connected to the traveler wires. Typically, these traveler wires will be the same color, but always verify by tracing them back to the other switch. Mark these traveler wires for easy identification. Next, disconnect the existing wires from the three-way switches. Carefully loosen the screws on the terminals and remove the wires. It's helpful to label each wire as you disconnect it to ensure correct reconnection later. Pay close attention to which wire is connected to the common terminal on each switch. Now connect the dimmer to one of the three-way switches. Identify the line wire, which is the wire that brings power into the switch. Connect the line wire to the appropriate terminal on the dimmer, following the manufacturer's instructions. Next, connect the load wire, which is the wire that goes from the switch to the light fixture. Connect the load wire to the appropriate terminal on the dimmer, again following the manufacturer's instructions. Then connect the traveler wires to the remaining terminals on the dimmer. It doesn't matter which traveler wire goes to which terminal, as long as both traveler wires are connected. Now connect the remaining three-way switch. Connect the traveler wires to the two traveler terminals on the switch. Again, it doesn't matter which traveler wire goes to which terminal. Finally, connect the common wire to the common terminal on the switch. This is the wire that was connected to the common terminal before you disconnected the wires. After all the wires are connected, carefully tuck them back into the switch boxes and secure the dimmers and switches to the boxes. Install the cover plates and turn the power back on at the circuit breaker. Test the dimmer and switches to ensure they are working properly. The light fixture should dim smoothly and the switches should turn the light on and off from both locations. If you encounter any problems, turn off the power and double-check the wiring connections. Another crucial aspect to consider is the type of load you are connecting to the dimmer. Fluorescent bulbs require a different type of dimmer than incandescent bulbs. Incandescent dimmers work by simply reducing the voltage to the bulb, which causes it to dim. Fluorescent dimmers, on the other hand, need to control the current flowing to the ballast. Using the wrong type of dimmer can damage the bulb, the dimmer, or both. Be sure to choose a dimmer that is specifically designed for fluorescent bulbs. Another factor to consider is the wattage rating of the dimmer. Dimmers are rated for a maximum wattage, and it is important to choose a dimmer that is rated for at least the total wattage of the bulbs that you will be connecting to it. Overloading a dimmer can cause it to overheat and fail. If you are unsure of the wattage rating of your bulbs, you can check the label on the bulb or consult the manufacturer's website. In addition to the type of dimmer and the wattage rating, there are also other features to consider when choosing a dimmer. Some dimmers have a built-in on-off switch, while others require a separate switch. Some dimmers have a dimming range adjustment, which allows you to set the minimum and maximum dimming levels. Some dimmers have a preset feature, which allows you to save your favorite dimming level and recall it with the touch of a button. Consider your needs and preferences when choosing a dimmer to ensure that you select one that is right for you. When installing a dimmer, it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions carefully. Improper installation can damage the dimmer, the bulbs, or the wiring in your home. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is best to hire a qualified electrician to install the dimmer for you. A qualified electrician will have the knowledge and experience to install the dimmer safely and correctly. They will also be able to ensure that the dimmer is compatible with your existing wiring and that it meets all applicable electrical codes. Before starting any electrical work, it is important to familiarize yourself with the National Electrical Code, NEC. The NEC is a set of standards that provides guidelines for safe electrical installations. The NEC covers a wide range of topics, including wiring methods, overcurrent protection, grounding, and bonding. Following the NEC can help to ensure that your electrical installations are safe and compliant with local regulations. One important aspect of the NEC is overcurrent protection. Overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers and fuses, are designed to protect electrical circuits from overloads and short circuits. Overloads occur when too much current flows through a circuit, while short circuits occur when there is an unintended connection between two conductors. Overcurrent protection devices will automatically trip or blow when an overload or short circuit occurs, which helps to prevent damage to the wiring and equipment. Another important aspect of the NEC is grounding and bonding. Grounding provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source, which helps to protect against electrical shock. Bonding connects all of the metal parts of an electrical system together, which helps to ensure that they are at the same electrical potential. Grounding and bonding are essential for safety and are required by the NEC. When working with electrical wiring, it is important to use the correct wiring methods. The NEC specifies different wiring methods for different applications. For example, non-metallic sheath cable, also known as Romex, is commonly used for residential wiring. Metal-clad cable, also known as MC cable, is commonly used for commercial wiring. Conduit is commonly used for underground wiring or for wiring in hazardous locations. Choosing the correct wiring method is important for safety and compliance with the NEC. In addition to the NEC, there may also be local electrical codes that apply to your area. Local electrical codes are often based on the NEC, but they may also include additional requirements. It is important to check with your local building department to determine which electrical codes apply to your area. Following all applicable electrical codes is essential for safety and compliance with local regulations. When working with electricity, it is important to be aware of the hazards involved. Electricity can be dangerous and can cause serious injury or death. Always take precautions to protect yourself from electrical shock. Wear appropriate safety gear such as gloves and eye protection. Use insulated tools. Never work on live electrical circuits. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is best to hire a qualified electrician. A qualified electrician will have the knowledge and experience to work safely and effectively with electricity. They will also be able to ensure that your electrical installations are safe and compliant with all applicable codes and regulations. The information is for educational purposes only. Always consult with a qualified electrician before performing any electrical work. Electrical work can be dangerous and should only be performed by qualified individuals. When selecting a dimmer for fluorescent lighting, you should also consider the type of ballast used in the fluorescent fixture. There are two main types of ballasts: magnetic ballasts and electronic ballasts. Magnetic ballasts are older technology and are less energy efficient than electronic ballasts. Electronic ballasts are more energy efficient and provide better dimming performance. If your fluorescent fixture has a magnetic ballast, you will need to use a dimmer that is specifically designed for magnetic ballasts. If your fluorescent fixture has an electronic ballast, you can use a dimmer that is designed for either magnetic or electronic ballasts. However, it is generally recommended to use a dimmer that is specifically designed for electronic ballasts, as these dimmers will provide better dimming performance and may also extend the life of the ballast. Another important consideration when selecting a dimmer for fluorescent lighting is the dimming range. Some dimmers have a wider dimming range than others. A wider dimming range allows you to dim the light down to a lower level. If you want to be able to dim the light down to a very low level, you should choose a dimmer with a wide dimming range. Some dimmers also have a feature called a low-end trim adjustment. A low-end trim adjustment allows you to adjust the minimum dimming level. This can be useful if you are using a dimmer with a fluorescent fixture that does not dim down to a very low level. By adjusting the low-end trim adjustment, you can set the minimum dimming level to a level that is comfortable for you. In addition to the dimming range and the low-end trim adjustment, you should also consider the type of control used on the dimmer. There are two main types of controls: rotary controls and slide controls. Rotary controls are the traditional type of control used on dimmers. They are simple to use and provide a smooth dimming action. Slide controls are a more modern type of control. They are easy to use and provide a more precise dimming action. The choice between rotary and slide controls is a matter of personal preference. Some people prefer the traditional feel of rotary controls, while others prefer the modern look and feel of slide controls. Before installing a dimmer for fluorescent lighting, it is important to disconnect the power to the circuit at the circuit breaker. This will prevent you from getting an electrical shock. After you have disconnected the power, you can remove the existing switch from the wall box. Be careful not to touch any of the wires inside the wall box. Use a screwdriver to loosen the screws on the switch and remove the switch from the wall box. After you have removed the existing switch, you can connect the wires to the new dimmer. Be sure to follow the manufacturer's instructions carefully. Connect the wires to the correct terminals on the dimmer. If you are not sure how to connect the wires, consult with a qualified electrician. After you have connected the wires to the dimmer, you can install the dimmer in the wall box. Be sure to tighten the screws in the dimmer securely. After you have installed the dimmer in the wall box, you can install the wall plate. Be sure to align the wall plate properly with the dimmer. After you have installed the wall plate, you can restore the power to the circuit at the circuit breaker. Test the dimmer to make sure that it is working properly. If the dimmer is not working properly, consult with a qualified electrician. Remember, safety is always the top priority when working with electricity. If you are not comfortable working with electricity, it is best to hire a qualified electrician to do the work for you.